Hi, I'm Tess,
Hi, I'm Sarah, and we are.
the Happy Edit Sisters. Happiness isn't just being happy, it's an embodied feeling that starts with how we approach life, our actions, and our mindset. Everyone has a range of emotions, and that's a good thing.
Join us as we dive into what it means to be happy and how we build a foundation for happiness through different lenses.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Tess. So today we thought we would do a little bonus track of just maybe a tool that we could maybe use just to help us identify maybe some of the things in our life that maybe cause us stress or distress, and how to bring more happiness into our lives as well. So something that I use quite often with my clients is something called the stress bucket. And so if you can all imagine a bucket, it could be a sand bucket, however you want to imagine that bucket. And I want you to imagine that at the top of the bucket there is a very small tap. And this tap might represent some unhelpful or unhealthy strategies that we might use in our life to usually try and avoid or escape distress. So what I want you to imagine, and Tess, maybe you can imagine this yourself as well,
Imagining.
is the things in your life that might cause you stress, might cause you de-stress, and I want you to imagine they're popping into the bucket. Okay? And these things can be quite significant moments in life, or they could also be quite the small things that might happen that might cause distress. So it might be, I don't know, it might be that we wake up and stump our toe, and then that just causes us to feel frustrated. Or we might be driving in the car and someone might kind of jump in front of us or get too close, and that causes us to get frustrated. But it might also be things like loss and bereavement or trauma, or it might be work, finances. So those more obvious things, I think, that might cause us stress. But it doesn't have to be those bigger things. What I want you to imagine, and Tess, you might be able to imagine this again yourself, is that bucket is quite full, and we've got that tap at the top that we mentioned, that those strategies that we might be using there. So things avoidance and escape might be kind of the use of alcohol, maybe the use of drugs, avoiding meeting with friends, not using those positive strategies that we might have. And they might for a short time make us feel better. So if we avoid what might be causing us stress, that might in the very short time make us feel better because we don't have to think about it. So we might chuck our head under the duvet, avoid going out, avoid meeting people. But ultimately, that doesn't really kind of problem solve the bucket. So the bucket gets higher and higher. And what happens when we put one more thing in the bucket?
It all spills out.
Yeah, it does. It all spills out. And that's when we might experience those moments of anxiety, depression, low mood, lots of really negative emotions, feelings.
Which then leads into physical issues as well.
Yep, definitely. So we'll notice it in our bodies as well. Tess, do you want to say a little bit more about how we might notice that in our bodies?
Yeah, so a lot of our stress is physically manifested in our bodies. So you might feel more tension in your chest and your shoulders. You might be clenching in your jaw, clenching in your pelvic floor muscles. So some of the first places that we tense within our bodies are our orifices. So our eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and pelvic floor as well. So that then creates more tension leading down into the neck, maybe giving us headaches, creating tension in our shoulders, maybe giving us an upset stomach because those nerves are also connected with our gut, so it's more likely that we'll have issues like IBS. And we might even have issues with incontinence because our muscles are constantly tight down in the pelvic floor, and so they're not working as they should by releasing, lifting, releasing, lifting. And so that can create incontinence. Lots of times we have this idea that incontinence is caused by weak pelvic floors, but actually what we're finding is a lot of times it's actually overly tense pelvic floors. Now, if you do have incontinence issues, please go see a pelvic floor physiotherapist, a specialist to see what is going on. But this can be an issue, right? So it's a full body issue. It can increase your heart rate. It can cause other pain because we're not releasing. If you imagine tension, like stress tension in your body, make a fist. And so, Sarah, if you want to try this as well, make a fist and really pull your fist as tight as possible and just hold it there for a really long time, right? So we're just keep going while I'm discussing this. So our bodies, we're holding this tension. When we're in this persistent stress state, our bodies constantly are holding this tension, and we start to kind of forget about it, right? Because it just becomes normal. Make sure you keep holding your fist. And then when you finally go to do something and you're like, oh, I'm going to try to do that. Now try to open your hand now. Notice that it's actually quite difficult to open,
strange.
Right? And so this is our body's response, physical response to stress.
Yeah, definitely. And it's really interesting to hear more about how what we might feel is more cognitive, so more in our head, that actually has such a significant impact on our bodies physically. I won't go into this today, but the fight or flight response to stress as well. So whether we fight, whether we run away, so flight, but also whether we freeze as well. But we can talk about that more maybe in a different episode as well. We can do a little bit of psychoeducation on stress and burnout and low mood and things like that. Something that we might also experience, so those negative thoughts, those negative cognitions, really impacts on our belief about ourselves. So, Tess, you refer to them quite often as limiting beliefs. And our self-worth and self-esteem and those words of I'm not good enough, I'm going to fail, I can't do this, all those real negative kind of beliefs about ourselves, those negative thoughts about ourselves as well. Tess, is anything else that you want to add to those, do you think?
So no, I mean, I think you're right. Like these limiting beliefs that we have are, lack of self-worth, feeling time bound, feeling like you're not able to do something, right? All of these things, and these can come from our experiences. They can, we can pull them. They can be limiting beliefs from other people that then we absorb, right? And so it's important to kind of take with this sort of bucket that we're looking at, right? Of all of these negative things and noticing how we're responding to them, and how they're affecting us, and realizing that we don't have to hold on to all of them.
Yeah, definitely. And that's really interesting. So if anybody is kind of like writing this down and doing their own little bucket of noticing those thoughts, noticing those physical feelings, noticing the emotions that it brings up. So whether that's frustration, sadness, overwhelmed, all those, I could talk about the range of emotions, but just noticing what that brings up for you, and then how we respond through our behaviours as well. So again, whether that's avoidance or whether that's escape, whether that, because it has such a big impact on our ability to push ourselves, to keep going, to, we might often go, I can't do this, so then we just don't, and we procrastinate. That's a good word, isn't it, that we all probably relate to. we'll procrastinate, we'll ruminate.
Yes, exactly. So Sarah, what do you think are ways that we can start emptying this bucket?
So one of the things that we can do is, so we've got that tap at the top, but we want to put a bigger tap at the bottom, so that as those things come into the bucket, we're then able to start to problem solve them. We're then able to notice them, to see if there's anything that we can do about that thing that's gone into the bucket. So some of those things might be noticing. That is one of the things that we can do, is just notice what's going on. Just stop. Take a minute, stop, observe, and notice. And then we have a choice whether do we continue to engage in that avoidance and that escape, or do we do something different? Do we do something about it? So that might be going for a walk. It might be thinking, actually, have I eaten today? Have I had a drink today? You know, have I had enough water? Actually, do I feel really fuzzy because I've not had a drink or I've not eaten?
Have I moved?
Yeah. Have I moved? Have I had a shower? Have I brushed my teeth? Have I spoken to anyone today?
I was just about to say that. How important it is to talk to someone else. And then also, meeting yourself with compassion, and not, if you do notice that you haven't done these things, don't be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I haven't done it. But be like, okay, that this is the reality. Yeah. I haven't done it, and that's okay. How can I move forward in a positive way to support myself?
Definitely. So it doesn't have to be these big gestures, does it? It doesn't have to be, I need to, I love going to the gym. That's my thing, is that I go to the gym a couple of times a week, and that's really good for my own mental health. But that doesn't need to be what everybody else has to do. We don't have to go, I'm signing up for 3 classes a week at the gym. And it could be, do you know what, actually I need to make a cup of tea. Yeah, or coffee or fruit juice, whatever everybody drinks out there. Yeah, just meeting yourself, as Tess said, with that compassion. But then other things that we can do is we could practice yoga, we could do meditation. Yeah, we could take ourselves out for
a walk.
You can tell we like walking. We always come back to walking.
Spending time in nature, around green areas, so important. We're going to go into that at a different time if we haven't already.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, it is all of this is important. Just meeting yourself where you're at and asking yourself, what can I do for myself today? Okay. What little gesture can I give back to myself that then helps start to release all of these negative things that we're holding in our buckets? And so we can just, acknowledge them, say, okay, they're there, and then let them go.
Definitely. And I know for some listeners, you might be thinking, that sounds much easier said than done. And yes, it does. But from experience, personal experience, and working with people who have tried this, it really, really does help. And I really think it's about noticing what it is that's causing you that stress, what it is that's bringing unhappiness into your life, and being able to do something different about it. And if we then notice that, those negative thoughts, feelings, emotions, and behaviours are starting to creep back in, have a little look at that bottom tap, that healthy strategies, and just notice, is there things that I'm not doing anymore? Have I stopped going out for walks? Have I stopped, having an apple a day to keep the doctor away?
Yeah, exactly. Just constantly having that recheck-in, that conversation with yourself is so important. And having it be this positive conversation that, you're meeting yourself where you're at, you're listening to yourself, you're asking yourself, what can I give back to myself? Being your best friend is really important. So if you guys are interested if you were walking or something, you were listening to this, when you get home, when you have a moment, if you haven't done already, take a moment to draw out that bucket. What are things, or however you like, right? I'm a very visual person, so drawing it can be really beneficial for me. You could even create a bucket and write things out and literally put them in it. Mm-hmm. And then see, how am I dealing with this? What are my strategies I'm doing now? Are they beneficial for me? And then seeing, okay, what's the best way that I can starting to take those things out. And that might be reaching out to a professional, that might be getting more help, from a therapist, from a coach, from whoever it might be, maybe just reaching out to friends and family, and asking them, these are things I'm struggling with. Can you help me? Because it is just so important to remember that we're not here alone. We do have a support system around us. Sometimes it just takes a while to find it and to develop it.
Definitely. And if anybody does experience any physical symptoms that they've never experienced before, so whether that is things like chest pains or shortness of breath, things like that, please do make sure that you contact your health professional as well, and just have that checked out. And it can sometimes really helpful to have like your blood works done and things like that as well.
All right, well, thank you very much for joining us today for this short little snippet. Hopefully it was beneficial, and if you're interested in reaching out to us, please do. For whatever reason, you have our information in the show notes, or you can reach us on Instagram. You can reach us at the.happyedit. We now have it set up. So exciting. So hopefully see you on Instagram. Send us your comments there. We'd love to hear how this goes for you, and if you have any other questions or things you want us to go over. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
At the Happy Edit podcast, we're mindful that the podcast is not in replacement of therapy. If you do need further support, please do contact us on our contact details in the show notes, and we're more than happy to offer further support and guidance and direct you to places like the counselling directory or therapy directories. If you do also need further support, we would also recommend you contacting your primary healthcare provider. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you all soon.